Right now, while you are watching this, your body is quietly doing something you never asked it to do. Pause and notice, just for a second. Are your shoulders lifted slightly up toward your ears? Is your jaw closed, but holding physical tension? Are your hands gripping something or pressing together when they do not need to? Go ahead and check. Most people find at least one of these silent habits switched on. And here's the fascinating part. You did not choose any of it. Your body did. And then it forgot how to let go. There is a Japanese word for what fixes this, and it is not the word you would expect. We are so used to thinking of stress as something that only happens in the mind, a racing thought, an overthinking loop that refuses to quiet down. But stress doesn't just stay in your head. It travels directly into your physical body, and it parks itself right there. The American Psychological Association actually describes muscle tension as almost a reflex reaction to your daily stress. When an urgent email or deadline hits, your muscles physically tighten. It is your nervous system's ancient way of putting on physical armor to guard you against a threat. For a quick 5-minute panic, this works exactly as it should. The muscles tense up, the moment passes, and they fully release. The real trap begins when the stress never actually leaves the room. Under long, chronic stress, the same research explains that your muscles settle into a constant state of survival mode. They braced for a bad day, and then they simply stayed locked in that posture from days, or honestly, even months ago. You already know this feeling, even if you've never had a name for it. The shoulders that unconsciously creep up by 3 p.m. The heavy tension sitting across the back of your neck after a Zoom call. The stiff lower back after a brutal week at your desk. These are not just random, separate little aches. The science links every single one of them back to trapped energy that your nervous system is actively holding and refuses to put down. So, if the tension is physically trapped in your body, the fix should be simple, right? Just relax. Let it go. Take a deep breath. You have been handed that exact advice 1,000 times. And this is precisely where our modern wellness culture gets it completely wrong. Here is the actual trouble with being told to just relax. You cannot release a muscle that your brain can no longer feel. And after months of subconsciously holding the exact same tension, you completely stop feeling it at all. It stops registering as stress. It literally becomes your new normal, your physical baseline. Think about that for a second. If tight is the only setting your body has known for an entire year, then tight doesn't actually feel tight anymore. It just feels like your neck. You have completely lost your somatic reference point. You no longer physically remember what a dropped shoulder, a soft jaw, or an open hand feels like from the inside out. This is exactly why the warm bath doesn't quite work, why taking a deep breath helps for a minute and then immediately fades, and why people tell you to loosen up and you honestly have no idea how. Because you are actively aiming at a biological target you can no longer locate. The instruction assumes you can easily find the tension, but most of the time you simply cannot. So, the Japanese approach does something that sounds completely backwards at first. It does not begin by asking you to relax. It begins somewhere else entirely. And once you understand this mechanism, you literally cannot unsee it. The word is datsuryoku. In Japanese, it is written with 2 characters. The first means to remove or to take off, and the second means force or power. Datsuryoku. To literally take the force out. Now, I want to be entirely honest with you about this concept, because that transparency is part of exactly why it works. Datsuryoku actually carries 2 meanings, and they almost completely contradict each other. One meaning is heavy and negative. It describes going totally limp, losing your strength, and your body sagging when it has absolutely nothing left. That is not the definition we are aiming for. The other meaning is an intentional choice, a deliberate, gentle act of extracting the hidden pressure you are putting into your own nervous system without even realizing it. It is an active, on-purpose release, rather than a passive collapse. And the gap between those two definitions is exactly the point. One is energy leaving you because you are completely burned out. The other is you consciously deciding to set the physical armor down while you are still standing. And here is the major psychological shift that gives you, which the English word relax does not. Relax tells you to add something, add calm, add ease, add peace. Datsuryoku tells you to actively subtract something, to find the invisible force you didn't know you were holding, and to actively extract it. That is a very different mental instruction, and for a chronically tense body, it is a far more effective one. I should be straight with you about one more thing, because this channel is built on keeping things real with you. The step-by-step somatic method that clinical scientists have tested in trials, the exact one I am about to walk you through, was not actually invented in Japan. It was originally developed by an American physician named Edmund Jacobson back in the 1930s. What Japan holds is the cultural framework and the daily habit of actually doing it. The everyday practice of scanning for hidden tension and actively subtracting it. And giving it a name matters far more than it sounds. Because a biological target you have a word for is a target you can release on purpose. Loosen up is just a vague, frustrating wish. Datsuryoku is a highly specific physical move. So, what is the actual move? How do you extract force out of a muscle you can't even feel? The answer is the completely backwards mechanism I promised you. To release a muscle you have lost neurological contact with, you first make it tense on purpose. You deliberately squeeze it for a few seconds, and then you let it go all at once. And in that sudden steep drop, the physical contrast wakes your nervous system up. For a brief moment, you can clearly feel the striking difference between held and released, because you just physically moved from one to the other. You have essentially handed yourself back the somatic reference point you lost. Now, and only now, your brain can locate the tension and you can actively drop it. Let me walk you through exactly how it works, because you can do this sitting right where you are. Start with the shoulders, since that is the primary storage center for most of us. Breathe in and lift your shoulders up toward your ears. You don't need all your strength for this. About 2/3 of your maximum effort is plenty. Hold it for 5 seconds and deeply feel the tension you are creating. Then breathe out and let your shoulders fall. Just drop them and let them rest for a slow breath or two. Pay very close attention to the feeling that floods in right afterward. The heaviness, the sudden warmth, the physical space. That feeling is exactly what a released shoulder is. That is the biological setting you had forgotten. Then you move on, one specific area at a time. The jaw. Clench it gently, then release, letting your teeth naturally come apart and your tongue go soft. The hands. Make a tight fist, then open, letting the fingers naturally spread and rest. You work slowly down through the body, one region after another, intentionally tensing and dropping. Never rushing, never trying to do the entire body in one massive go. One specific area at a time is the entire method. That narrow, isolated focus is exactly what allows your brain to locate the hidden force in a specific place and actively extract it from that specific place. And this is not just some soft, hopeful wellness idea. In early 2026, a team of researchers gathered 31 separate randomized controlled trials covering more than 2,200 people and analyzed them all together. What they found was that this specific practice, deliberately tensing and then releasing the muscles, significantly reduced chronic anxiety and deeply improved the quality of people's sleep. The way it biologically works, they explained, is by simultaneously turning down muscular tension and the nervous system's state of over-arousal. It costs absolutely zero money, It requires no apps and no expensive equipment. And you can begin tonight. But let me be completely fair with you. This is a daily practice, not a magic switch. The very first time, you might barely feel the physical shift. It works entirely through repetition, the exact same way a body slowly relearns a habit it had completely forgotten. Give it a week of small daily attempts before you decide anything about it. Now, come back to exactly where we started. Check your stomach again, your tongue, your breathing. For many of you, something has already physically eased since the beginning of this video, simply from bringing conscious attention to it once. That noticing, that small, intentional check and release, is Datsuryoku. That is the entire somatic habit. A few times a day, you pause. You locate the hidden pressure your nervous system is holding, and you actively set it down. Over time, release stops being a state you have to desperately search for, and it becomes a biological baseline your body knows exactly how to return to on its own. And here is the final realization, the piece that is so incredibly easy to miss. The chronic tension you have been carrying was just your nervous system trying to protect you. It braced for a perceived threat, and it stayed stubbornly loyal to that survival job long after the actual danger was over. You are officially allowed to tell it that the threat has passed. You are allowed to put the neurological weight down. Just sit with that physical space for a moment. If this specific corner of the internet has given you a framework worth keeping, you are welcome to subscribe, and I will keep exploring these psychology-backed habits with you. And if a specific person came to mind while you were watching, someone who has been carrying their stress in their body without ever realizing it, you might pass this along to them. It could be the exact somatic reminder they needed to finally set it down.